It's time now for We Need to Listen. There's been so much emphasis on the various pregame demonstrations, but what we need to focus on is what are the next steps in the dialogue involving police brutality and racial injustice, the issues that led Colin Kaepernick to kneel in the first place. For starters, Kaepernick has donated nearly $1 million of his own money to a variety of organizations working in oppressed communities. Seattle's players, and probably no group has been more outspoken on these issues, well, they've launched the Seahawks Players Equality and Justice for All Action Fund to support education and leadership programs in the community. And 4 players, including the Eagles' Malcolm Jenkins and the Seahawks' Michael Bennett, sent an eloquent, detailed 10-page memo to Commissioner Roger Goodell and Executive Vice President of Football Operations Troy Vincent, asking for their support in the quest for racial equality and criminal justice reform. Then there's the Take the Lead campaign in Boston, which includes all 5 professional sports teams, baseball, hockey, football, basketball, and soccer, that was created to combat racism and hate speech after Orioles player Adam Jones was called the N-word at Fenway Park back in May. First up is a public service announcement that started running this past weekend featuring Boston athletes.
If we all take the lead together,
hate falls behind.
So I spoke to the Patriots' Josh Kraft, who's on the Take the Lead Boston executive panel, and he told me that there are 2 initiatives that are currently in the works. One is a job fair for diversity candidates who will hopefully get jobs at the 5 teams. The other is a fellowship in which they will have interns who will work 2 weeks at each team, so a total of 10 weeks. Again, diversity candidates trying to get jobs in Boston, which, as we know, has had a history of very fraught race relations.
Look, I'm a big fan of athletes standing up for what they believe in. I'm not a fan of them taking the knee during the national anthem. I just think it's disrespectful to the flag and to the military people who have fought for our country. But with saying that, I also think that they can use a different platform. I think that's wonderful what Boston did with a PSA. I think athletes can go talk to the police department. They can talk with politicians. But most importantly, they can use their social media as a platform to really get awareness out there for what they believe in. And I think that's a good way to go.
And I think we've heard from so many of these athletes that it's not about disrespecting a flag, that it's not about what the military is fighting for, that for them it goes back to the root of what the first knee was taken for, that it is that issue. And I said this to you guys earlier, there's a good in this discomfort, in that you and I can disagree and maybe have some discomfort. We're a little uncomfortable talking about this because that's the only way that you get change.
Yeah, and I sit on the board of RISE, which is a Ross Initiative for Sports Equality, and it's headed up by Stephen Ross, who's the owners of the Dolphins. And many of those players go out and they're doing, focusing on community initiatives. And many of the leagues, all the leaders of all the sports leagues and sports television networks are a part of this initiative, sitting on the board, and we're all putting out PSAs. I did at the U.S. Open, and it's really about just bringing awareness to the younger generation to let them know and to understand the importance of really fighting racism, but in a good platform.
Yeah. But I hear from so many athletes that they're not always sure of what they're doing out there in terms of kneeling or whatever it is, but they know they want to work in the community, and I think those actions will speak the loudest.